brought to you by Tando Channel, and I'm your host, as always, Sapi. And I'm so excited today. I know I always say I'm super excited about every episode, but today truly is a groupie moment for me. I have with me on the show Lulu Haangala Wood. Hello, Lulu.
Hi, how are you?
I'm really, really well. And it's such a great pleasure to have you with us and for you to join us on Closer Perspective. We've been, you know, stalking you for a long time. We've been crushing on you. And I know that you have an incredibly busy schedule. In fact, you were shooting just earlier on today with your partner, with the hubby. So I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit so that you've made the time to spend the next couple, about 30 minutes with us and the women across the continent is absolutely amazing. So hello, and I hope you're well. You look gorgeous,
I
FYI.
thank you so much and thank you for having me. It's really an honor. I have been excited about this chat and yeah, despite a busy schedule, I don't think you should be ever too busy to have conversations, interesting conversations.
Yay. So usually at the beginning of each show, we kind of read a bio and share, give a bit of context to our audience about the person that we are talking to. And I do have your bio with me here, but what I really want to share is um, someone who clearly is a fan and who's a follower of yours, and she shared some sentiments. Of you with me. And I just want to read that because I just found it so incredible. It's on my phone. And so she says, um, Lulu Haangala Wood, Zambian, amazing, really, what she has achieved in her early 20s. So, she's from Zambia, but most of her childhood was spent in Zimbabwe. Her parents were lecturers at Solusi University, so an Adventist background, quite a lot of strictness there. This young lady actually is a graduate from Solusi University.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah. So she says Lulu managed to make her way into television and media in Zambia in a very big way. She is a UN Goodwill Ambassador, a brand ambassador for some international brands in Zambia, a Mandela Washington Fellow. When she's emceed for a couple of big companies. She gives Bata here as an example. My dad was as former MD of Bata Zambia, so you actually emceed at one of their events. Now she's ventured into entrepreneurship with AfriShop Co. She's a wife. She has kids. She's a mom, and she's a great cook. I don't know if she's tasted your cooking, but she says you're a great cook. And then her and her husband have launched an Insta cooking page, Wood Kitchen Zambia. So isn't that amazing?
It's just shocking that someone can know me so well and give such
Yes.
a glowing description.
Yeah. And when I read your bio, your official bio, and I went back to this was a actually 2 years ago, Lulu, that she sent me this. So you've obviously grown in leaps and bounds from this, because this was actually in July 13, 2020. And here we are in September 2022. And of course, Wood Kitchen has grown in leaps and bounds. You have grown in leaps and bounds. So absolutely amazing. One of the key things to kick off the conversation that I'd like to just to hear from you is you describe yourselves, or maybe let me say that one of your big goals and life ambitions is to be an actor of change in Africa. Here at Tando, we are all about the continent. We're all about adding our voice to the narrative of Africa and putting the right narrative of Africa across. What is behind your passion for the continent?
So my passion for the continent really comes from watching my parents. When you look at our background, where we started from, we shouldn't be where we are now. And I got on stage at a very young age. At the age of 4, I was on stage. I was singing in front of large crowds. And one thing that my parents really, really put into me, like they drummed it into me, was when God gives you a platform, don't, fill your head with pride. Instead, look at the big responsibility that He's given you. That should, like, actually, it should be like, literally a heavy load on you, because God has given you a responsibility to make a difference and to use your influence for social good. And so I've grown up believing that if I'm given an opportunity or a platform that not many can be on, I should use that then for social good. I should use that to make a difference in someone's life. I should use that to, yeah, be a change maker. And so my heart and passion is Africa. It's in improving Africa. Africa is my community. I think growing up in 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 Zambia and in Zimbabwe, going to school in Kenya, and then later transferring my uni to South Africa, and just
Pan-African.
around Africa really, and living around a lot of Africans. I feel Africa is my community, not just Zambia. And so I really feel the trajectory of my life has really led me to believe that I'm entering rooms of power that either influences change in my community or helps people in power make decisions for my community in Africa. Hence, I call myself a change maker, because that's what I believe I have been called to be.
Amazing. That sounds really amazing. And what it tells me about you is that you're a doer. I think the difference with people who actually do make real change on the ground and who do grow in leaps and bounds is that they are doers, not just speakers, but actually you do, and your actions follow your words. So that's absolutely incredible. And leading from that, how did you land the ambassadorial roles that you've played, a youth ambassador, and then with UNAIDS, a goodwill ambassador? And what were some of your key takeouts in terms of that tour of duty?
So it's interesting that you say I'm a doer, because the appointment to be a youth ambassador for the US Embassy at the time, I'm no longer a youth, so at
You still look it.
thank you. So at the time, I sort of pushed my way into working with the US Embassy. I had been going around to high schools using that my platform just to, you know, um, tell my story, or bring people of influence that I was meeting and getting them to tell their story to young people, through the We Keep Moving initiative. And with time, I realized that the American Embassy was working with a lot of youth and they were doing exchange programs. And I thought, why not, connect with them, and maybe they can give me a platform to do more, or I can help some of their programs. I knew that they were going out into schools, but they were not using a lot of local voices to
Mm.
communicate. Wanted to communicate, and I feel that's very important, whether for the corporate companies or for different embassies. If you want to communicate something, use someone that's relatable to the people you want to communicate to. So I sort of pushed, kept on emailing, and finally I got a call to say I had been nominated to chaperone Miss USA when she came to visit Zambia. And
Wow.
that was my first engagement with the US Embassy. And we happened to come to Zimbabwe. I met Carl Joshua Ngube on
Ah,
that, because it was sort of a collaboration between the US ambassador in Zambia and the US ambassador to Zimbabwe. And we were trying to showcase through Miss USA the beauty of the two countries, from the Vic Falls side and Mosi Otunya, as we call our side now.
yeah.
Um, but I, like, with time, then I got to start working with the US Embassy, and then I was appointed. I think from there, I just learned, shoot your shot. I think from that youth embassy appointment, I felt like shoot your shot, and you got the opportunity because you put in the work,
Yeah.
and name popped up. They remembered you were the girl that had been bugging them,
Would not
but
stop emailing.
yes, but also they asked around about you. You had been doing enough for them to say, well, this is the right person. So sometimes we wait for opportunity without working with what we have. So I think that was my big takeaway from that. And then from the UNAIDS Goodwill Ambassador, I have just been speaking about my story around people that were infected or affected by HIV in my family. Um, and, it happened to cousins, a cousin just stopping to take medication because at church the pastor told her to stop. Or seeing some of my very close relatives live with HIV for over 20 years now. A grandparent live a very full life for over 17 years after she was diagnosed. And I am open about that, but it was never something that I actually felt would come my way. So I just happened to be doing or talking about something that was interesting to them. And so I hear there was a list of about 20 people that they'd shortlisted. And when they finally called me to interview me, they said they had been watching me. So, big lesson, there's always somebody
There's
watching
always
what you
someone watching you.
do.
Absolutely,
You just
100%.
never know. And I think some of the biggest opportunities for me have come from doing what I'm just authentically passionate about. It's not about, I'm going to get this if I do this. Yes, I'm very strategic,
Yeah.
but to be honest, some of the biggest opportunities really came from doing something that I just simply felt I needed to do.
Wow, it's so amazing. Two things, so amazing. Like one, someone is always watching, and you do you. I always get a lot of questions that people ask, how do I become an influencer? How do I monetize my audience on social? And I know that you are an influencer. And whenever I talk to successful personal brands such as yourself, the one thing they always say that is so consistent is, you know what, just do you. When you start out, you're simply just doing something that actually you enjoy and actually you love, and then it will follow. Signs and wonders will follow. So they don't come ahead, but they will follow in action. So, I mean, I completely concur with that. And what have been some of your key takeouts? I mean, you've spoken in front of Prince Charles, now King Charles, Barack Obama, these amazing, I mean, global people. What was that experience like, and what did you learn?
Um, those opportunities once again came from the simple going into schools and applying to the Mandela Washington Fellowship to just learn more. It was my first time out of Africa. And what I realized in that moment is you are enough even if you've just been in Africa. Sometimes we demean ourselves because we feel everything that we need to learn is out there. They also have stuff to learn from us. And I think it's important that we as Africans are proud enough and walk with our heads high as we walk into some of these rooms, letting them know I'm not here just to beg and learn, but I'm here to share as I learn, you
Yeah.
know. Um, I did not anticipate meeting President Obama and the First Lady Michelle Obama because it was something that wasn't even offered to us, or we were told it wasn't going to happen. No one ever mentioned something like that happening. We knew we would be in a room with them. Um, I'm still, I still try to wrap my head around how I got selected. Firstly, out
Wow.
of 1,000 to be the 500 Mandela Washington Fellows, and then out of 500 to be the two invited to the White
Wow.
House.
Amazing.
It was a mind blowing night. I remember getting back home and just crying on the phone to mom because it was so overwhelming.
Yeah, I can
I think the
imagine.
Washington Post, or was it New York Times, had put out a list of the invited guests for this dinner and said they don't feel that people are going to meet President Obama and Michelle personally, but they'll be present at the dinner. And the dinner was to be on the lawns. So as we get there, we are
Lo and
being moved
behold.
White House, and then I'm meeting President Obama and Michelle, and we get into this room with Condoleezza Rice and all these powerful presidents from across Africa and very powerful people in the US. And you're thinking, little me, what am I doing here? I was at my brokest in life in that moment. Brokest. I just happened to have a gown because my mom said, you never know, there could be something you're invited to.
Yes.
Always down. Um, and when I got back to the room, I was just a mess. And I told my mom, why is God doing this to me now? I mean, it's always been in my plan to meet the president of America and to do this, but I was supposed to be at a different level, mom. I was supposed to offer more. We were supposed to make some big deal. We're supposed to make some big deal or something. And here I am. I don't think I'm doing much. Yes, he's praising the work I'm doing, but like, why is God giving me this now? And my mom said, sometimes the opportunities that come are like a blank check. A blank check where God is saying, my child, this opportunity came to you. Yes, not at a point of time you felt was, the right time, but it's up to you to see what you're going to do with it. Are you going to fill in this check to just to be sorry, my son? Caleb, please go touch the phone somewhere else. Thank you, darling. Please. Mommy's on a recording. What happened? Please go. Thank you. I'm recording. Bye. Close the door. Caleb, close the door.
Not understanding. It's okay.
Okay. So I don't know where I start from, but
Blank check.
yeah, so my mom talked about it being a like a blank check. I could have easily used that opportunity as a vuvuzela to say, I met Obama, I am a big star. And she said, be very smart about how you use this blank check. It's up to you to fill in what it's actually going to be worth as time goes. Did you make connections in that room that you can leverage on, from now on? Did the fact that you met him elevate your status to a point where you can now enter rooms you could not enter before? So that was a very important turning point for my life, because I really took what my mom said, and I tried to use that opportunity, and I continue to be blessed to have been able to create a network that then opened doors to even more in my life since 2014. So, yeah, I think going back and looking at opportunities that we get and trying to understand why they've come at the time they've come, and really taking time to let it sink in and think through, because sometimes opportunities do come to us and we're in go mode and don't stop
Mm.
to say, let's take a
Mm.
breather. What could this mean?
Wow.
And how far can I go with this? What should I do? What shouldn't I do?
Yeah.
There were some things I had to say no to, and I'm
Mhm.
glad I said no to them, because it was just a quick win. It was instant gratification, post this opportunity.
Strategy is so important, when opportunity, I mean, opportunity always meets hard work in any case. And then to look at it strategically, your mom is a wise woman. And I think she gave you um, a lot of, that was diamond that she actually gave you. And I want to, following that with the question around your foundation, the work that you were doing at the time that got you noticed. So tell us a bit more about the We Keep Moving movement, what it's about, what you've managed to achieve, and how you've kept it going.
So the We Keep Moving initiative really, as I started before, started as a passion to just give back, because I had been poured into. I
Mm.
wanted to point others through the networks that I had, and leveraging on the influence and the influential people around me. Going to the US, I really learned more about, the private partnerships. And the easiest way to make money at that time, or to try and receive funding for such an initiative, I guess, would have been to say, can I have a grant from the US government? But after learning about how you can, work with the private sector in impacting change in our communities, I realized, well, I do have influence, and in the influencer tag was not a thing then.
Mhm.
There was nobody called an influencer. But based on the work I was doing, and social media had just begun, I had been trying to approach brands and say, I could be your spokesperson. I could be your
Yeah.
brand ambassador, speak for you on radio. I can talk about you. A lot of brands thought I was crazy. I had started working with a few. And when I got back, I sort of said, okay, now zone in, learn from, brand ambassadors in South Africa, which is closer to you, in Nigeria, and then in the US. See what they're doing and try to also, work in the same way. But as you work with them, as you, knock on their doors, when they finally say yes to working with you, I actually had a part in my contract that said, if you want to work with my brand, you have to support the We Keep Moving initiative through
Wow.
making an impactful change in the communities, and seeing how we can do it. It could be different. I worked with a brand called Orca, and they they said, okay, we want you as brand ambassador. I said, great. And then I said, well, I'll need you to also give back. What do you have to give back? They said, we don't have cash. And they said, well, we've got some old stuff in the warehouse. I'm like, what is the old stuff in the warehouse? I had given birth with my first daughter at the biggest public hospital in Zambia. And I knew it needed a lot of help. And when I heard what they had, it was a no-brainer that they should give it away to the hospital. And they gave over $20,000 worth of goods and products that were very helpful to the hospital. So that's just an example of how I started to, then work with brands and use the We Keep Moving initiative as a tool to get brands to make meaningful impact.
I love
I had
that.
Yeah. So it's really just about, creating that impact. And I think since 2014, I've worked with some of the biggest brands in Zambia, from the Orca, Samsung, Vodafone, Pizza Hut. There's so many that have come on board, and we've been able to create opportunities for young people, for women and adolescent girls. It's just been an amazing way to then use my influence for social good.
Amazing, amazing. And I love the fact that you focus on ensuring that the girls or the women that you help or that the foundation works with to be the best version of themselves, to just focus their energies on a path, and you don't limit how they see themselves and where they could end up. And I think that's really commendable. So I'm a huge well done. And I love the fact that it's, if you want to work with this brand, you're going to have to give back to society. I think that's really amazing. Then you created this amazing brand with your husband. Um, how does co-founding work in a marriage? How do you work and love this person 27? I can't even call it 24/7, but like all the time. Just what inspired that? Janet says you are a great cook. Was it your love of food? Tell us about that. Tell us about Wood Kitchen.
So my husband and I, when we met, quickly realized we both had a passion for food. We loved cooking together. We loved trying out new places together, trying out new food together. And I was a single mom, and my daughter and I had this habit of going out. I can say we tried sushi for the first time together, and we loved it. And she was 5 years old, and
Aww.
even loves sushi. And it's something that we always say we tried together and we loved it. So even as we started as a family of three and now a family of four, cooking was something that brought us together in the kitchen. It would never be my husband is in another room and I'm in another room. We all sort of chip in. Someone is cutting onions, someone is doing this. Um, but he was the better cook. So um, it was competition for me. I just,
When the men are the ones that cook, they are the better cooks.
yeah. It, it, and I say this in past tense because I have improved.
We'll have to taste the food. I have to come and taste the food for me to say, okay, yes.
Okay, I'll say I'm the better baker, and he cannot bake to save his life, and he knows the other stuff better. Um, but I started sharing our cooking, just tidbits on my stories on Instagram, and my husband hated the camera. And fast forward, we get to 2020, and COVID hits. He's been working as a general manager in the hotel industry, and he can tell things are just going down. We were not going to manage. I was running AfriShop, and at the time I could also tell that with COVID, working with China, it
Mhm.
wasn't easy, and we were soon going to have make the difficult decision to close down. And we had two children in private school. We were trying to build a home, and we're trying to, we live in a little cottage, and just trying to build our lives as a middle class family, just hustling. to make a better life for ourselves. And one day I said, a brand has asked me once to do an ad for cooking oil based on our stories about food.
Mhm.
We also have a lot of people asking us to just do more food content. Why don't we try it? um I don't know if we both understood what we were getting ourselves into. I don't think there was ever a discussion about what does being business partners in a marriage look like. um I feel that's an important conversation to have because we did butt heads a lot.
I'm sure. I am sure.
But
Part
there was
two.
no conversation, there was no roles really put in place. We were making the first checks that were coming in, we're going straight to expenses in the home. I don't know how to stop. And I think for the first time, it's like we were meeting each other for the first time, because initially we were just husband and wife, both really busy. I feel like our personalities at work can be very different from our personalities in a home.
100%, like 100% agree with you.
And so it's like we were meeting each other for the first time. There were parts of him I had never seen, and there were parts of me he had never seen. And especially as a woman, I came out quite bossy. And I don't stop. I had just come off working with an amazing business partner called Miu Miu, and Miu Miu works, okay? She does not stop. It would be 3 a.m. my time, and if she needs to get on a call with me, we would get on a call. By 4 a.m., I would be up chatting with her. And I sort of came with that work ethic into the wood kitchen, while my husband had always worked 8 to 5. And after that, we chill. You switch off your work phone. The weekend is the weekend. That did not exist in my world. So, to cut the long story short, it's important that you do have those conversations before. You do have to be very patient with understanding that you will learn each other in a completely different light.
Mm.
And it can break your marriage. It
I,
can
ca- I
actually
can
break your
I
marriage.
I can believe that. I can actually see how that can happen. Because so true. You as a partner and you as a business partner, two completely different, there's no congruence. It's like two different people, isn't it? So absolutely, and
Yeah.
thank you for being so honest about that, by the way. So absolutely true. And again, what I can see is it's just something that's coming out naturally of what you enjoy doing. You didn't have to, it wasn't putting on the Ritz. It was you, but
Yeah.
saying, let's look around us. We need to see where is the opportunity, what's the next for us, because this is the current reality that we're seeing now. And like you said, we're a family building our lives. So what do we do? So again, you're spotting those opportunities. So you seem like, full life, work-life balance, is that Mission Impossible? We did a poll. We always do a poll before Closer Perspective. And I always want to say thank you guys to those people who participate in our polls. And 55% said there's no such thing called work-life balance. What are your views? How do you balance your very many roles?
I don't know if you balance. I feel like you sacrifice
Mm.
in order to create some form of balance. I sacrifice something at the time. I either sacrifice putting down an idea immediately and start working on it for time with my son or my daughter or my husband, or both of us saying, work is calling, but let's leave our phones, let's go to our outdoor kitchen, let's drink some wine. Or sacrificing what should be family time to travel and go for a business meeting, and then call back and say, listen, I was supposed to come tomorrow, but another opportunity has come and I'm going to have to stay another week. Um, so I feel it's sacrifice. Um, to balance, you have to sacrifice. So something is always sort of, you know, so you're trying to balance. And in that, there's always a shake there. And so I'm not good with English. I don't have the big words to explain this, by the way. So
I
I
get
hope
it.
people will understand.
I get it.
It's just that So it's just shifting. You have to sacrifice something in order to have some form of balance. It
I
does
get that.
exist, but
I get
it
that.
requires.
I get that. And I've a friend of mine said to me, um, balance, But what, very similar to what you're saying, she's like, what I do is I throw one ball so high that it gives me opportunity to focus on this one. And by the time this one is coming down and I have to catch it, that one is going up again. So sky high, it gives me opportunity. So it's really about it's sacrificing one thing for another at a given time, at a given time. So in all this madness and craziness, Lulu, and the hustle, remaining true to yourself, how do you, as my last question to wind up, how do you maintain um, your mental health? It's such a big issue now with people coming out of COVID. There's been so much around depression, so much around just keeping your well-being, your mental well-being. How do you mentioned the glass of wine there. How do you keep yourself sane and your mental health?
I think recently I realized that I wasn't coping well. Um, there was so much going on around me, and I just felt stuck in a whirlwind. Um, I've started doing me more. I just never used to take time for me. It's always been about others. It's always been about taking care of your family, taking care of your children, taking care of others around you. And I was sick a lot. And I've realized very quickly that with stress, my body reacts first.
Mm,
And it took a while to realize that, wait, you got sick because you were stressed. Like immediately you got stressed, you got a migraine or your BP shot down. Something is wrong. So I started taking a bit more time for me. I love gardening. Um, my herb garden is way too big for family consumption, but I garden. I love going to my garden. I also love music, and I was born singing. But I think for a long time, especially in my adulthood, once I graduated from university, I associated music with work because that's how we fed the family growing up. I would go out singing with dad, and so it had a negative connotation to it. But recently I got a little speaker and I just started listening to music, and everyone in the house was like, what's going on with mom? My husband is like, are you okay? I'm like, you know what, I found the thing that calms me. And so I carry my speaker with me almost everywhere I go. I'm getting my makeup done for an event that I'm speaking at or hosting, and I have the music, and it just sort of sends me out. I've also learned that I travel a lot, but I travel a lot for work. So I'm learning to take a day or three during
mm,
that work trip to just sleep because I don't sleep well. If I don't sleep, I'll stay in the hotel room the whole day, and I am treating myself to a hotel room instead of living with a friend these days because I'm realizing I just need that
mm,
time.
to just
I
breathe.
just breathe. Then I'll treat myself to a good meal. I'll go shop up a storm. It's the only time I shop. I don't shop when I'm in Zambia. But that is like, it's so important to give ourselves time to do that thing that just leaves us zen. For some, it's exercise. That's not my thing. But for others, it works. But just find that thing. Or else, I was crumbling. I was in,
Wow.
and when it comes to mental health, I do have a parent that is struggling with mental health, and I wish we had seen it before. I wish he had gotten help before it got to the state it is. And so I think that was a wake up call for me to realize, I mean, you can work so hard and ignore the signs and then end up in a state you don't want to be. So I think my mental health has become so important to me. It's become such a priority to me.
Wow. I'm glad that have you took a moment to pause and to see the triggers and you have found a way to take care of self. Very, very important. Lulu, thank you so much for your time. I have really enjoyed the conversation. I just want to take a moment to just honor the fact that you've been so authentic throughout the conversation. I mean, I really got snippets of who you really are, all of it, and I really am grateful for that. So thank you so much. Africa, Lulu was here, it's been amazing. Thank you so much. Whatever you're doing out there, Africa, take care of yourself and good night. Thank you so much.